Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Well, it's not just us who has Minnesota sports flowing through their veins. It's also our guy, Darren Doogie Wolfson, Channel 5 Eyewitness News and Scoop podcast extraordinaire. And the timing, Darren, is perfect because as we record this on Tuesday at 12:25 p.m., word has come down that Carlos Correa, after strike one against the Giants, after strike two from the Mets regarding his failed physical, has agreed to a 6-year contract with the Minnesota Twins pending a physical, but reports are that the majority of that physical has been resolved, and so we don't expect his ankle issue, the main sticking point in San Fran and New York, to be a problem here. The floor is yours. What can you tell us about what has been a whirlwind of a winter when it comes to Correa and now the Twins?
Yeah, good afternoon, Judd. Hello, Declan. Judd, I look forward to the ESPN 30 for 30 on this saga. I mean, so many twists and turns, I can tell you. As recently as over the weekend, two high-ranking Twins officials were convinced he'd still be a New York Met. This was in reaction to what Jim Bowden, the former Reds GM, he does Sirius satellite radio, former Washington Nationals front office executive. He certainly has connections. He tossed out over the weekend, hey, it's trending in the Twins' direction. Well, two high-ranking officials said, we still think he will be a Met. Our sense is he wants to be a Met. Now, I've always been surprised that he was willing to move at this young age to third base. Like, that to me surprised me. As close as he is with Francisco Lindor, I still thought a year removed from a platinum gold glove that he wasn't willing to move in his 20s. 3, 4, 5 years from now, sure, but not right now. But that he looked at the Mets and said, okay, big market, quicker opportunity to win. My good friend Lindor is there. Okay. But after, what is this now, 21 days in? I believe this is day either 20 or 21 from the Mets verbal agreement. The longer this went on, Judd, it certainly had the optics of, okay, the Twins have a shot. Now, I never had the intel to excite the fan base because just based on Steve Cohen's New York Post comments in December, knowing some of the other stuff I'd heard about Correa and his, desire to be in a very big market, thinking the Mets would find a way to rework the contractual terms. Yeah, my sense was that he would ultimately end up a Met. So am I mildly surprised as we sit here on Tuesday afternoon? Sure, mildly, but as long as the player was still out there, knowing the Twins were closely monitoring the situation, were remaining engaged with his representation, sure, there was always a chance, but I didn't want to put anything out on social media until, there was further clarity. Well, that clarity came late last night into today with this 6-year, $200 million agreement. You're right. A lot of the physical has already taken place. The Twins are comfortable where things stand. I mean, I don't think there are going to be hiccups. Now, I didn't necessarily think there would be hiccups with the Mets based on those Cohen comments to John Heyman in the New York Post. But like at this point, I don't think there's going to be a fourth chapter. Like, I think this is it, that he is going to be a Twin. What surprises me the most is the Mets were willing to do something comparable to the Twins, 6 years with some vesting options, but wouldn't touch the $200 million figure. And a 7th-year vests based on 502 plate appearances in year 6. It can get all the way up to 10 years, $270 million. There is full no trade power for Correa, is my understanding. So like Carlos, he gets a lot of things in this deal, but think about 6-7 weeks ago, the deal he agrees to with the Giants to now where we are today. Now, on an annual basis, outside of Aaron Judge, Trey Turner can't say he has this on an annual basis, right? Xander Bogaerts can't say he has this, Dansby Swanson, but those guys have term. They have the double-digit years. Not all of them, but two of them, right? Turner and Bogaerts. A lot has to go right for Correa to get to that point. I will also say on the medical side of things, my sense is the Twins are however you want to term it, a bit more conservative, offering a bit more leash. Like the Twins look at it and say, okay, 2014, now 9 years later, there hasn't really been a hiccup. Like we think he'll be okay, but we'll get some protection there in the back end of the contract. But like that's why I say I certainly see this deal getting to the finish line, the Twins officially announcing this contract, holding a news conference at some point before the month is over.
All right, Dukes. I don't mean to be Buzz Killington, but I'm going to turn this around on another vein with the Twins. So they're signing Carlos Correa, game-changing shortstop. Love what he's able to do. He's obviously one of the best in the game at his position, whether that's at third base or shortstop. He's a game-changing player for sure. But the Twins, from my vantage point here, haven't really had a legitimate backup plan in their free agency outside of, Joey Gallo, Kyle Farmer. What is their plan with pitching? Are they just going to bank the fact that, hey, we had some bad injury luck, we have some veterans coming back? Does this accelerate any other thing to get the legitimate pitching? Because to me, Dukes, this just looks like the same 2022 team that played below 500 for more than 50% of the season.
Declan, more is coming. As you look at the starting rotation, I will be very, very surprised when we talk, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 months before opening day, if the Twins starting rotation as it looks right now is that when we revisit this back and forth. More is coming. I can't tell you exactly who. I mean, they've engaged Miami on Pablo Lopez. Heck, I know Trevor Bauer is about to hit the market, right? Falvey has the history in Cleveland. Thad Levine was a college teammate of Trevor's agent, right? So there's that relationship, right? I mean, they'll do their due diligence, to me personally, with that sort of baggage, the off the field, but even in the clubhouse, you talk to people with LA, with Cleveland, even in Cincinnati. I mean, there were some enemies there, right? So, that's a slippery slope, but talent wise, there's no denying that Bauer could certainly help some team, but you have everything else you would have to deal with. And just knowing how the Twins take the temperature of, a good portion of the fan base, I think a lot of people would tune them out. I think the blowback would be severe. But I can sit here and suggest, the name is going to come up if it hasn't already at Target Field, right? It at least has to come up internally, right? And may even turn into an external conversation because of Thad Levine's relationship with one of Bauer's agents. But there's some other guys potentially out there, right? We're still curious to see what the Milwaukee Brewers do. I just know there's been dialogue on Lopez with the Marlins going back sometime. So that certainly would be a name, with them signing Johnny Cueto this morning, or at least there's a verbal agreement. I guess I can't say signed until the physical is passed. The deal's officially announced. But I will be curious to see what the Miami Marlins now do after adding Cueto. Them trading Lopez for some offensive help, whether that would be Louis Arise, Max Kepler, maybe both in a large deal. But that would certainly be a name that I would keep an eye on. Plus, there still is interest. They were engaged for a while on Carlos Rodon, heck, going back to before he signed with the Giants. Then this go around, they certainly were engaged, had the face-to-face meeting with him early in free agency. There still is interest in adding a lefty starter. Can't necessarily give you a specific name right this second. Plus, they remain in some dialogue on Michael Wacha, who, we can debate how much he would help the rotation, but he is currently the best available free agent starter.
Off that point, Dukes, as well, I think there was a...
And let me just add, before Bauer, there's still a couple days here where Bauer's in DFA limbo. Right. When Bauer presumably clears all this in 2 or 3 days, yes, talent-wise, he is the best free agent pitcher. But as I sit here on January 10th, it'd be a
disaster. It would be a disaster. It wouldn't fly here. As far as, I think it was 2 months ago or so, or a month ago, I read a report that also said the Twins might be open to trading either Maeda, Gray, or Malley because all three of them, I think, are going to be free agents after the 2023 season. Do you see any scenario in which they package one of those pitchers and, let's say, Kepler and something to try to get a starter with more team control who they consider to be a potential upgrade as well?
Well, I mean, there's nothing imminent as far as I can tell. I mean,
Gray's the one who would have value.
Yeah, if you're another team, I mean, you need to see Maeda. You need to see Malley right on the mound.
Gray would be the one.
In spring. Gray would be the guy. There's no buzz right now. Like, I think there's a better chance the Twins try to sign him to a 2 or 3 or 4 year extension. Not that, talks have picked up on that front. Talks will pick up because Malley, arbitration eligible. We've got the deadline to file here before the week is over. So I know, some talks will pick up on a Malley contract, whether it's just 423 or beyond. Those talks will pick up starting tomorrow. Those usually pick up the last 48 to 72 hours. So I know talks will pick up on the Malley front and all these other guys that are arbitration eligible that haven't agreed to 23 contracts. Like Kyle Garlick was, but he agreed to a sweetheart deal. Otherwise, the Twins were going to cut him free. But there's some other guys, Steel Bar, right? I mean, I don't have the full list in front of me, but all those guys that are arbitration eligible that haven't agreed to terms yet for 23, those talks will pick up. But to answer your inquiry, I mean, it would just be Gray. It wouldn't be Malley or Maeda. I would be surprised at this point if the Twins moved Gray, but not to suggest he's untouchable, right? Like, yeah, I mean, the right offer comes along. Yeah, Judd, they would trade him. I'm just saying, hey, they're not against trading Louis Arise, right? The batting champ, right? So, like, they're open-minded to all sorts of possibilities. So, I wouldn't rule it out, but as I sit here today, there's no great steam on a Sonny Gray trade.
Do you think, Doogie, that this Correa deal and involvement, which was quite extensive, do you think that it's the same if it's Jim Pohlad instead of Joe Pohlad overseeing things, at least from a day-to-day operational standpoint? Did Joe Pohlad being involved now change the Twins' thinking at all in your mind?
No. Well, put it this way. I mean, Joe's more omnipresent. I mean, he has an office at Target Field. He's there on a regular basis. Jim was not there on a regular basis, right? So, just in some day-to-day chatter, yes, from that standpoint. But put it this way, if Jim were still the chairman, not Joe, I still think this deal gets done. I do. 6 years, $200 million, chance to get it to 10, 270. Yeah, I firmly believe if Jim was still, the guy, that Correa agrees to these terms.
As far as Correa goes as well, Dukes, what do we know about what transpired in 2014 when he broke that leg? Because it surprised me that this became such a sticking point when we really hadn't talked about it or heard much until the Giants physical. What do we know about that? And is there any concern about the fact that I know that Correa came up, hobbled a bit, and it looked bad late in the season? If you recall, he slid, I think, in the second base. And he said that I've got a plate in my leg, basically, and it was vibrating, and I had to wait for it to calm down. And once it did, I was fine. I'm just curious to go there because this was definitely not something that got discussed when he signed here on what amounted to a 1-year deal last winter or last March. What do we know about this? And like, is 6 years seen as sort of the ticking time bomb thing here? Like, the Mets and Giants wouldn't have dismissed this completely unless there was a genuine concern here. And my last point too is I'm willing to bet from an insurance standpoint that at least came up that you could probably get a 6-year contract insured. You probably couldn't get 10 or more insured.
Well, yeah. With the insurance policy, no chance. On 10, you would revisit it after likely 5. You might have been able to get to 6 here. Heck, even at 5 or 6, you probably, with the magnitude of this deal, probably need to involve multiple insurance companies. It may not just be one, but sure. Yeah, I mean, the insurance policy is going to be nuts on this, but you would revisit it after 5. Like, you would never be able to get 10 years. I mean, even with the Yankees, right, on the Aaron Judge deal, or the Phillies on the Trey Turner deal, you're not able to insure for that long. Like, you would absolutely revisit it after, in all likelihood, 5 years. I mean, it's what you said. I mean, it's, what took place in Kansas City, him referencing the metal plate. Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't been a thing because, it's never caused them to be on the injured list.
Right.
It just, the back was more an issue than the metal plate in the leg, but it is a thing going back to an injury in his early pro career, a couple years in the minor leagues. I mean, yes, I mean, he had a pretty major surgery, but it hasn't had an impact, right? So who's to say it's all of a sudden going to have an impact year 9, year 10 afterwards, year 11? Now, is it possible? I'd love to hear from a medical expert, even if they haven't, clearly seen the x-rays, have intimate knowledge of the situation, just in general. Like, can a bone die? Like, the bone that's right there with the plate, is that the concern, that he's looking at, arthritis, things of that magnitude? I mean, that would be something, that would make sense to me. I mean, clearly something's there, right, Judd? I mean, when you fail multiple physicals, right? I mean, Twins fans have every reason to be thrilled right now. But let's not forget, they finished third place, still get the guy, but like, there's plenty of questions that need to be asked about failing a Giants physical, then failing a Mets physical, especially after the owner of the Mets went on the record with the comments that he did, right? So different teams, look at physicals differently. It's going to be an extensive physical, make no mistake on that. But like, think about Chris Paddock, right? The Mets nix a deal for Paddock with the Padres because of medical concerns. The Twins are like, okay, we're fine with it. Let's make that trade, right? You think about Rocker, the pitcher out of Vandy. He's now in the Rangers organization, but the Mets drafted him a year ago, right? Couldn't come to an agreement over medical concerns. We've seen these medical concerns a lot, but there is a sense, going back to the Twins trading for, Sam Dyson, even trading for Tyler Mahle, right? That there's a little bit more leash there that the Twins are willing to deal with when it comes to the medicals.
By the way, the Twins did announce a pitching trade from Dustin Morse here just 5 minutes ago. They have acquired right-hander AJ Alexy, I believe it is, from the Nationals, a minor league pitcher. Had a cup of coffee with the Rangers at the MLB level last season, an ERA of 11 in 4 games appeared. So he is added to the 40-man roster. They DFA'd Oliver Ortega to make that news happen. So
just reading that right now.
On the way.
They give up minor league right-handed pitcher Christian Jimenez, and Oliver Ortega designated for assignment release or assignment. He was claimed off waivers from the Angels 4 days ago. Yeah, January 6th. So just looking at that email right now. So thank you for that heads up. But I expect more, Declan, right? I mean, that's not the end goal. That's
that wasn't the more
type move, right? I mean, it's that time of the year. I mean, you're making all sorts of different offers, minor league offers, with an invite to big league spring training. You get Castro, the former Tiger. Hey, that's a good get on a minor league deal. You tried to get a hard-throwing righty. His name is not here in front of me, but he ended up choosing the Blue Jays over the Twins. You'll win some in that regard. You lose some. Just like big league free agency, but same deal with minor league free agency. You make all sorts of offers. You get some guys. Other guys you don't get.
Latest on the always head-scratching Timberwolves. Dukes, the last time we talked, I think we were shoveling dirt on the grave, and now they've come out storming again. So what are we to make of what has to be a team that nobody understands at this point?
Yeah, well, I mean, better the last 4 games, right? With the 4-game winning streak.
Yep.
It's clear as day that Kyle Anderson helps Rudy Gobert a ton.
He's a smart player, by the way.
Kyle Anderson's nice. I mean, I figured that when I heard in the summer that the Miami Heat had all sorts of interest. I mean, Miami is as smart a front office as there is. So when Miami had interest in the player, certainly Memphis had some interest in re-signing him. You see how successful Memphis is. Phoenix was another team, right? So, I mean, when you hear the teams that had interest in Kyle Anderson in the summer, you're like, okay, plus his body of work in San Antonio and in Memphis. But you just watch. I mean, he has a sizable impact on Gobert. And then Taurean Prince, after missing the 20 games, you see the difference he is overall. They have a chance. I mean, Judd, I sat here in this spot last Tuesday suggesting, where do you see on this schedule a chance to win 5 or 6 consecutive games? Go on a run where you win 8 of 10, 9 of 12. I mean, that's pretty much verbatim what I said. Well, here we are, 4-game winning streak in Detroit tomorrow, presumably a win. You get then Phoenix at Target Center on Friday. Have you seen all the guys dinged up for Phoenix? Devin Booker out, Chris Paul out right now. DeAndre Ayton questionable for their next game, so he's dinged up. Landry Shamet. I mean, outside of Mikal Bridges, pretty much everybody on Phoenix is dinged up. I mean, the Wolves should beat Phoenix on Friday night. Saturday, tricky game. JB Bickerstaff, my guy, the Cleveland Cavaliers, here on Saturday, right? And Cleveland doesn't play on Friday night. So the Wolves have the back-to-back. I mean, that's where the Wolves took advantage. I mean, this 4-game winning streak, hey, kudos to them. They don't need to apologize for winning. But you get Denver on Monday after Denver played Sunday at home against Boston.
Sure.
Denver doesn't get here until 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning on Monday, right? So, Denver was tired. You think about the Clippers on Friday, no Leonard, no George, plus the Clippers played Thursday night in Denver. So just like the Nuggets here on Monday morning, the Clippers on Friday morning didn't arrive until about 4 a.m. The Portland Wind, nice. Overcoming a 20-point deficit in Houston, nice. But why did you get to that point to begin with? I think this is pretty much who they are. I still don't see a pathway to them getting to the 46 wins they got to last year. Now, the comeback to that is it was about this time last year that they took off. It's not like this team was great in November and December last year. They took off about this time last year, played incredibly well the rest of the year, got to the 46 wins. I just don't know if I see them getting to 46 this year, but it may not matter. I mean, you may be at 43 or 44, and there may be a legit pathway to the 6th seed where you avoid the play-in, because that's how crazy the Western Conference is. I mean, it's just nuts. They're really, outside of Memphis, nobody can create legitimate separation. And so it may be like this. We're at the halfway point, Judd. I mean, the Wolves have played exactly half their schedule. 20-21, 41 games of the 82. We're at the exact halfway point of the schedule. That's a pretty large sample size. This is who I think they are, and I think it's who the Western Conference may be in large part. There will be an outlier or two, right? But I'm telling you, like last year, 46 got you the 7 seed in the play-in. You were like a game or two away from avoiding the play-in. It may not take 48 or 49 wins to avoid the play-in. That's just the way it looks right now. All these teams are beating each other up on a nightly basis. On Karl Anthony Towns, I can tell you he's ramping up his activity on the court. He's been doing some boxing off the court. So with the calf, I mean, the activity level is pretty legit right now, but it still may be weeks. Like, I don't know if he's back in a week, so it may be even February at this point. I always thought he'd be back before January was over, but it could potentially be February at this point. Jordan McLaughlin, absolutely out for multiple more weeks. So it would be nice for the Wolves to have their full collection of guys, but at least for the foreseeable future, no Cat, no McLaughlin.
So what has Finch found then? And how much can he, because you're right. Gobert and Anderson seem to have a really good working chemistry. And I'm just curious, when Cat comes back, what happens to that? There's just so many. I still don't know how the pieces, and I don't think the Wolves know this either. How do the pieces of the puzzle fit together ultimately? Because there's guys that you're going to have to play. And it's been pulling teeth just to get here so far.
Then you think about the playoffs.
Yeah.
How will those pieces fit, right? I mean, that's been the big question going back to
hard,
July.
Dukes.
Okay, the Wolves in the regular season should be pretty good.
Yeah.
But how do you play Gobert in the postseason? Do the warts with Gobert get exposed that much more like they did in Utah? But yeah, I still think there are questions about the regular season. That being said, this team is better off with Cat than without Cat. You want Cat back.
I'm just asking how it works
as possible. But sure, yeah, internally, I don't think they have every single answer on that front, but you'll find a way. I mean, Cat is going to play. They're going to have Cat and Gobert on the court plenty together, right? I mean, one thing that has worked is D'Angelo Russell, not being the facilitator in crunch time, other times where he's playing off the ball a good amount. Anthony Edwards is starting to take that third-year leap that many of us expected. Then, yeah, certainly Taurean Prince, Kyle Anderson. Let's not forget about Anderson missing the games he missed, those back spasms. There were so many games questionable and then he wouldn't play. Well, now that he's back can be tricky, right? So I'm not ready to say Kyle Anderson is good to go for the rest of the year. We'll have to monitor that. But right now he's good to go. And Gobert doing just a better job overall of catching passes, whether it's lobs or on the roll. Like, think about early in the year, how many balls he was fumbling that were passed his way. Now,
I know.
He's catching a lot of those passes.
No, he was struggling.
And when he catches those passes with those long arms, he's going to be able to dunk the ball or lay the ball in, right? So something as simple as that, just Rudy Gobert catching passes has helped this team. Him blocking shots. How many games in a row now is it multiple blocked shots, right? For a while, he was averaging under 2 blocks a game.
Yeah. Yes.
Something as simple as that, right? And I get it. There's more nuance. There's altering shots, the things he does in that regard, or even, causing a turnover like on Monday against Denver, going back 8 days. I was at that game, so it's still in my mind, where Jamal Murray late, drives down the lane and Gobert comes over and Murray ends up stepping out of bounds, right? So technically Gobert didn't alter that shot, but he altered whatever Jamal was thinking in his mind, right? So there's still that sort of impact. But bottom line, look at the shots being blocked now by Rudy. Just something as simple as that, where he can get to 2 or 3 blocks a game.
Final scoops, sir.
Well, the Wolves, with the trade deadline, now less than a month away. Can't remember if it's February 8th or 9th, but at this point, less than a month away. So, that's keeping me busy. Not that the Wolves are, on the cusp of anything. Still trying to track who these other investors are with Alex Rodriguez, Mark Lowry, but continue to hear George Hicks, a local guy, former Cargill executive, that he's one of 3 investors joining Alex. So trying to figure out who the other 2 are. Still trying to figure out if the Wolves have any chance to sign Naz Reid or Jalen Noel to an extension. Those talks have been ongoing for a while, but my sense is neither gets done here anytime real soon. Then just been busy with the Vikings. Had a lengthy chat yesterday with Joe Theismann. Hopefully I can do a new scoop podcast this week, just getting his thoughts on the Giants game on Sunday, trying to figure out if Garrett Bradbury can be back on Sunday, trying to figure out if it will be Oli Udoh at right tackle now that Blake Brandel has been activated, that window to activate him. I guess not activated, but that 21-day window has been opened after he was on injured reserve. Did talk to Blake in the locker room the other day. He's feeling pretty good, but hey, Udoh is more a tackle than a guard. He was forced into playing guard last year. He's not a guard.
Right.
He's a tackle. I get it. The Giants' defensive line is significantly better than Chicago, but Oli Udoh held his own on Sunday. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it's Udoh at right tackle on Sunday. So the Vikings certainly keeping me plenty busy.
Great stuff, Dukes. We'll talk to you Thursday again. Thank you.
Okay. Take it easy, boys. And on
right.
Kirk Shiraka, money, $1.5 million. Connor Rhoda, who I remain in touch with, he played for PJ and for Kirk, started some games PJ's first year in 2017. He told me to check on Kirk having a daughter that either just got done with law school on the East Coast, maybe even specifically at Rutgers, or still in law school. Plus, Shiraka worked with Shiano going back years. So you combine all that, but $1.5 million, money talks.
Yes,
Plus, Kirk was so tight with Tanner Morgan. Tanner's now gone. Right now, I didn't necessarily foresee after Shiraka signed the new deal here in the last couple months, to up his salary, that he'd now be leaving. But, hearing all this stuff about his ties to the East Coast, his ties to that Rutgers program, to Greg specifically, and the money that Rutgers was willing to pay, I'm not overly surprised. Look for Matt Simon. The Gophers didn't announce this on Monday, but Matt Simon with, his play calling experience, not that it's large, but look for Matt Simon to be the play caller. I know it's co-offensive coordinators, but look for Matt Simon to be the play caller.
Great stuff, Dukes. Thank you.
Okay, take it easy, boys. Bye-bye.